Ireland has a climate change challenge with the rest of Europe to reduce emissions by 90% by 2050. This means all of our building stock will need massive upgrading. From where we're now, it seems like a daunting environmental and social challenge, but it's also an opportunity for the building industry, as it could create over 25,000 jobs in deep insulation retrofits and switching to renewable fuels. To examine the energy issues facing us all, I sent an energy expert team to a typical house in the Dublin Mountains. I joined homeowner Donald Flanagan.
Good to see you, Duncan.
So Donald, have the energy team arrived here yet?
Yes, Archie and Dave are here this morning and they've been busy working around the house.
Very good. So this is your living room?
That's right.
Open plan, you've dining over this area, fireplace?
Yeah, loads of space, great views you can see, so it's a wonderful place. The last winter now was tough, like coming in and seeing ice on the inside of the windows. You can have the heating on for as long as you want really, and it still doesn't heat up that much.
Looking around Donald's home with the assessors, the root causes of the cold soon became obvious.
As we look down the hole then, we can see particular spots just there that are very badly insulated.
The house was built at a time when fossil fuel was cheap, and as a result, there was almost no insulation fitted.
Yeah.
Thermal imaging showed up cold areas throughout the house. I asked Archie for a breakdown of what was going wrong. So how's this house performing, Archie?
This house is typical of Irish detached houses. If you wanted to heat this house to comfort levels, it would cost approximately 8,000. Now, nobody's going to do that.
8,000 euros a year?
That's impossible. Even today, even though the heat has been on for the last 4 hours this morning, the house hasn't risen above about 15 or 16 degrees.
Archie's camera reveals that this house is like most built in its time, drafty, with almost no insulation. In a cold winter, Donald could leave his boiler on all day and not achieve any level of comfort. So Archie, what are the costs now in upgrading this house to such a good standard, say bringing the energy band down to say a quarter of what it is, and does it make sense to do that?
Well, you could reduce the energy cost of this building to say a quarter of its current use, and that would probably cost you somewhere in the region of about 10,000. We would be recommending that the homeowner would also look at bringing it down to maybe 1/8 of its current running costs, and that would involve a lot more work, but it makes absolute sense to do that. Energy prices are rising quite steeply. They've doubled in the last 3 years, but the costs of labour and materials are still quite low. There's also a grant system there to help with that. So we would encourage people to go ahead and do this work now, because if they put it off a few years, they've already spent that sum on energy, which could have gone into making the upgrade to the house, and they would miss the benefit of having a few years of comfort.
Houses with low energy ratings like this one are worth bringing up to standard, as the work done is paid for over time with energy savings. Grant schemes have started the ball rolling, but we need to find ways to pay for deeper retrofits. Global fossil fuel prices are predicted to continue to rise, but with incomes reducing, it's now a difficult time to be tackling the problem. I talked to Brian Motherway.
Well, the typical upgrade for somebody in their home might be to spend maybe €3,500 euros, especially for an old home where it's not in good condition. That might save you 1/3 off your bill, so it pays for itself quite quickly.
What's the potential for much deeper retrofits in our homes?
We're still at the tip of the iceberg. We've 100,000 homes upgraded in the last 2 years, but really we'd like to see 1 million homes upgraded. There's an awful lot more work to do, and we'd like to see people doing deeper retrofits where they really maybe reduce their bills by 2/3 instead of 1/3. That's possible, but it costs more, and then the key question then is, how do people afford to do that?
So how much would it cost to bring it to, say, 1/3 of its energy?
Homes are very different. They're small, they're big, they're old, they're new, but I would think maybe typically you might be talking 15,000 euros, 20,000 euros for the perfect upgrade, to really squeeze out all the efficiency you can out of a home. And again, that will pay for itself, but it might take maybe 10, 15 years to pay for itself. So people have to find ways where, how can I invest in my home now and I will make that money back over the long term?
With money so tight today, how can people now kind of find that investment?
Well, the key is to find new ways of financing these upgrades, and that's about bringing in the energy companies and bringing in the banks. So the point is, there's money out there still for good investments. See, if somebody said to you, can I invest money and I get a guaranteed 7, 8, 9% return for the next 15 years, that's still a strong financial proposition. And that's what we're talking about in homes. So the key is to find ways that people don't have to have the money in their own bank account. They don't have to be able to afford all the upfront payment themselves. There has to be new ways through either who you buy your energy from, maybe a bank, maybe a national scheme, to do what we call pay as you save. So ultimately, the energy savings you're making pay for the upfront investment, and over the lifetime of the project, you get it for free.
So 15, 20,000, that's a lot of money for householders today. How do you think they're going to find that money?
Well, I think what's interesting is people are starting to realise, although it costs money up front, you actually get that money back. So over the 10, 15 years those investments are in your home, you actually end up making money because your energy bills have been lowered by maybe up to 2/3 every year for 15 years. So that makes it a much more interesting thing. How can I invest in my home in a way that actually pays for itself? I get the comfort benefits, I create local employment, I reduce my emissions, and I actually make a profit at the end of it. And that's where the financial institutions come in. Banks are saying, well, look, if I can invest, if I can find a way to lend people that money, and I know they're going to be able to pay me back because they're saving money, their bills have gone down. And that's what's happening in other countries, and that's what we want to do here in Ireland, is find ways to offer the typical homeowner an easy way to get the money to upgrade their home.
As we explore the options to upgrade our housing stock, we have to be aware that many people are not able to pay for the changes. Rising heating costs badly affect 400,000 households in Ireland, now in fuel poverty. I met Charlie Rorty from Energy Action.
Fuel poverty is the inability to heat one's home due to poor insulated housing, due to low income, and also due to high fuel prices.
So is the number of householders falling into the fuel poverty net increasing every year?
The figure's certainly increasing, and it's due to a number of factors, including the recession, people losing their jobs, also allowances being reduced, and more levies on fuel.
So typically, what sort of houses are these people living in?
Well, the houses in Ireland were very poorly insulated. So people, especially in rural Ireland, are living in cold, wet, damp houses, are suffering from cold-related illnesses, etc. And also young families, they are also beginning to feel it because of the recession and also because of lack of income.
So what's the work that Energy Action are doing about this?
Energy Action are insulating the homes of older people and needy people, and people who qualify under the fuel allowance criteria. And they are also what they are doing is attic insulation, doing draft stripping, fitting energy light bulbs and fitting lagging jackets, and also giving energy advice as regards how to read their bills, their energy bills, and also how to read their meter if they have central heating. And some of these people don't have central heating also.
How much insulation would you put into a typical attic?
The typical insulation nowadays is 200 mils that we would have to put into all attics as part of the warmer home scheme. And all the pipes would be lagged, and the cold water jackets would be lagged, and tanks and covers put on them as well.
Energy Action insulates homes and offers energy advice to vulnerable households. Today, they're upgrading a home in Dublin. These very basic upgrades have a very quick payback for anyone who can afford them. And rather than spending hundreds of millions of euro on fuel allowances each year, we should be focusing this money on upgrading these buildings for the future. Irish homes have over twice the fossil fuel demand of European homes. The cost of retrofitting makes sense when you consider one average home here could easily accumulate heating costs of 50 to 100,000 euros over the next 25 years. I asked Joe Curtin to explain how we get a pay-as-you-save scheme up and running.
Well, at the moment, householders are very, very focused on investments with really short paybacks. So what we need to do is we need to find ways to encourage them to make longer paybacks. And I have to say, in fairness to government, they're on the right track. They're looking at this pay-as-you-save option, which does seem to offer a lot of benefits as far as consumers are concerned. But the question is, can we really get inside consumers' heads? Can we convince them that this is a really new option, that they're going to come away from this with a warmer, healthier home, with lower energy bills, and it's not going to actually cost them anything in terms of the repayment, because the repayment is going to come out of their energy savings. And that's a real challenge, to sell this as a completely new option, which is going to have all sorts of benefits for Ireland.
So how do we get householders to go with this?
Well, I think people are very used to spending 15 or 20,000 euro on a car, so there's a real communications challenge here to make this normal, to make this socially acceptable, because as we know, spending 15 or 20,000 euro on a retrofit is an investment which is going to keep on delivering. It's going to keep on delivering energy savings over a 20, 25, 30-year period. And as energy prices rise, this is going to become a more and more valuable investment in the future.
A neutral cost on bills may be a big incentive, but it's not the only reason to start retrofitting our homes. Upgrading will increase comfort levels that we've never had before and will last for the lifetime of the home. The home's improved BER rating will increase the potential resale value. And with fuel prices only going up, the only way to really protect ourselves is to literally insulate ourselves from the problem. The money we spend on importing fossil fuels is colossal. If we were able to spend that money here instead, we'd be saving money ourselves, reducing our emissions, and generating jobs in our local communities. But we need new thinking and clear strategies if we're to make the most of the opportunities coming our way. In a later programme, we'll go back to Austria. We'll visit Kuchuk to find out how one small town is making the transition to low-energy living and locally generating over 3 times their own energy needs. We'll also visit a pilot scheme in Tralee, where a district heating project is fuelled exclusively by local forestry. And we'll be dropping into Baltinglass in Wicklow to meet people who are striking out for their own energy independence. See you then.